Alright, we're going to start this project out by cutting a disc. You can cut it whatever size you want, but I am cutting mine at 3/8 of an inch because this will fit onto the magnetic clasp that will be featured in the next video. So it all leads to each other. It's all connected. I need to get my hearing protection on. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we have our little disc. You're going to cut 2 of these if you're going to be making the clasp in the next video. You might as well make 2 anyway. On to the next exciting event. Alright, now we're going to find center on this thing. This is a center finder, and you slide your disc into the back so that it sits on both pieces like that. And then you draw a line there. That's straight, I hope. And then you're going to draw 3 lines in total. 2. No. And 3. So that what we end up with is a little center spot there. We're going to take a 1mm ball burr, very teeny little guy, and a little lubrication, and we're going to drill. First we're going to start with a divot, and we're going to try to control this because this thing is going to want to fly sideways on you. Slow. And your finger is just, this left finger is squishing this thing down so it doesn't spin, and the whole right hand is, and if you're left-handed, and your whole left hand will be focused on holding that thing so it doesn't roll across the metal. So now, once I get a decent sized divot in here, I'm going to bring this up and just go ahead and drill right through it with the ball burr. So there's our hole. Going to take off any burrs from the disc cutting process. I learned a little trick. If you just put a tiny bit of spit on your finger, don't spit on your finger, just put the spit on your finger, and it'll hold much better than if you don't have any kind of moisture. But you don't want a lot, you just want a tad of spit. New measurement. Okay, so there's our almost perfect disc. Now we can go over and we can start shaping this thing into a beautiful dome, half dome. All right, the fun continues. So we're going to start out in a 12. That's not a 12. That's 12. So we're going to start out in the 12. Hide all your flaws on the inside. You want to level that disc in there so that it doesn't move. And now using a 10.3mm punch, I'm going to hit 5 times. Hopefully down center. I'm going to take the next punch, which is an 8.7. Give that 5. And we're going to move. What are we moving to, Nancy? We're moving to a 10mm, which is this one. And we're going to go back in again with the 8.7 5 times. And then I'm going to switch to the 7.1mm, and I'm going to go 10 times. I'm going to kind of walk around. So each dome, half dome you're going to do with this, you're going to do the same count. So now we're just going to do a little bit of sanding. Take off and flatten the end here. We're going to turn it a bit. This is easier to hold on to than the flat. And we want to just kind of put a little flat ledge on the back there. Rotate it. Okay, so that's ready to go. Do my second disc. So to see if your domes are the same size. Put them together, and you should have a pretty well balanced, what do you call it, lentil bead there. Okay, so now you need to, if you haven't already, make some 8.5 millimeter mandrel 16 gauge wire round jump rings, and you'll want two of them, and you'll want to close up the ring so that it, you know, is really tight and lined up. Let's check it both ways because sometimes we get that stuff happening. Okay, so that's done, and what we're going to do is we're going to lay that disc. Now, the easiest way I've found to do it is to get a really fine tip tweezer, and see if you let go, it pushes out so it holds onto it. So then come over to the jump ring, kind of position it, then hold it down and close these to get out of there. Most of the time it works. Occasionally it does what it just did, or a lot. Maybe it does it all the time. You'll find out. But you want to get this thing on here as square as possible. Sometimes you might need to re-round your jump rings too. So after you solder the jump rings closed, you might want to throw them onto a mandrel and give them a few whacks to make sure they're round, because I don't think this jump ring is round, this one that's under here. It doesn't sit as nicely as on this one. So anyway, that's the beginning prep for putting this together. All right, so next couple steps, we're going to be over here in the soldering area. Oh yeah, there are only 5 of those. I need 6. So you want to make, let's see, 24 gauge, 2.5 millimeter mandrel. Just cut them with a clipper. Not a big deal. So you want to make 24 of these little guys. It's gonna, the balls are the melted jump ring, and then the jump rings themselves are going to be on the side of the cap. We're also going to solder these shut at the same time. I've already made 6 because you saw the piece. So first I'm going to ball these up. All right. Before I forget, you for sure want to have a little film canister, or you can use a small one of those yellow orange pill bottles with the screw caps. Keep the caps because you drill some holes in the sides of it, and then you can put your tiny little spheres in there and lock it down. The holes will allow the pickle to get in, and that way you don't have to go hunting in the bottom of your pickle pot for hours for these tiny, tiny little spheres. Make sure they're dumped. Drop it on top. Solder. Where is the seam? Those are ready. Alright. And then the next soldering operation, we're going to be soldering the disc onto the top of these. In the meantime, everything can go in the pickle. Okay, so there's our disc. I mean, not disc, jump ring. This is our disc. And we really want to try and carefully center this. Okay. Hard solder again. I use only hard solder pretty much. You can flip to medium if you want for the embellishments. We want to put a good decent amount of solder because we have to share this solder with the little jump rings and the spheres we've made. Kind of shoving them down into the seam between the jump ring and the disc. Solder time. Can't touch this. You definitely don't want to touch this. It's hot. Alright, So that, pull it up a little bit there. All right, so that's good to go. We're going to pickle that, and then we're going to go over and carefully lay out the design. So now we're going to make little spheres for the top of the bead cap, and I'm using the 3mm 18 gauge jump rings, and I'm stacking them so that they fuse together. Each sphere consists of 2 jump rings. It's done. Beautiful. Lovely. So now I've got 2 spheres going into the pickle. Woohoo! So you want to bring over some kind of soldering board to do this on so you don't have to move it. So here's our little guy. And what we want to do is put together 6 of these little teeny jump rings. So now I'm going to lay out the jump rings on top of the wire and on the side of the dome. And I'm going to try to put the seam, because these are not closed, soldered closed. I'm going to try to put the solder seam down at the bottom. Ergo, I must wear magnification. All right, fine, go over there. Okay, all right, so now I need to start picking out my little guys, and I'm just going to drop them into the jump ring. Okay, hopefully that's not blurry. Yep, I'm going to drop these spheres right into the bottom of the jump ring. I'm going to turn this rather than try to move that. From here on out, you don't even want to look at it twice. Scary. And the other thing is, you might want to just let this air dry instead of hitting it with a torch, because it's so fragile. I'm also going to drop 3 pounds of solder on the top, 3 or 4, depending. Okay, so double check, make sure everything is lined up. This is a little slidey downy. Okay, so that's what it should look like. Perfect. Well, as close as we can get. So now you can either let this dry out over time, or do what I'm going to do and go to the torch and keep your fingers crossed a lot. All right, here we go. Slow warming. Be patient. It's starting to bubble up. Oh. Definitely should let it air dry. This is not fun. Some of the pieces will pop up and then they will relax back into place. Hopefully in the right place. It's in red. You also might want to keep your in your pickle, put your little cap in a container, because sometimes the balls don't all adhere and they will pop off and you'll never find them in the bottom of your pot. So what I'm doing now is repairing the other dome. I put the little piece on with a chunk of solder behind it, and I'm taking I lost 2 balls besides that one over here and one over here. And I'm putting solder behind them and dropping the sphere back on there, and we try again until we can't fix it, which hopefully is not the case. All right, let's hope that's done. Now I'm gonna do the whole solder of the wire on top here. Alright, it's time to do 2 of the last steps. So I want one of the sphere for the top. This is already fluxed. I'm going to put a little 5mm 24 gauge jump ring up here. Make sure it's centered, which it's not. Okay. This one I've got the flat side up. And I'm going to put a biggish chunk or 2 maybe. So I put all that, a couple of pieces of solder on the back of that. What I'm going to do now is put teeny little pieces of solder up here with the jump ring that I so carefully centered and then immediately screwed up. Let's say at least 2, maybe 3 pieces in here. Little teeny ones. Okay. So first we're going to warm everything up. To the ball first. And that's going to go quench so I don't knock it off. Going in. Here we go. Come on, Hunty. Okay. Last thing we're going to do is solder the ball we just put solder all over. And then we are almost done. Trying to figure out which side had the solder on it. I'm so excited. You can go sit down. So don't be surprised if a lot of these little spheres fall off. I mean, you could actually, and you probably should, put a little tiny piece of solder behind each ball. I was just hoping there was enough on there from the attaching the sides that I wouldn't have to do that. Because I'd be lazy. I are. I think that's it. Pickle time. Okay, so if you're making bead caps, which these are, can be, remember that hole we drilled in the disc? Well, all you need to do, and I'm not going to drill through these because for the project I'm working on, the magnetic clasp, we don't need the hole. But all you got to do is go in and drill into that hole there, and you'll come right out. Hopefully the top here, if you keep it nice and straight. If you've got a little drill press for your flex shaft, that would help, or any kind of drill press, because it's very hard to drill straight. And if you made a ball burr in a piece of wood, you could create a recess for this to sit in. So anyway, since we're not doing that, I'm going to instead do a little cleanup with the bristle disc. I don't know if this is yellow. I think it was once yellow. By the way, if the spheres are going to fall off, now's the time to do it, which is why we wear protective eyewear. Because it's not too late to go back in and solder again. So you want to make sure that all your little seams and joins are good, so you can't see the seams. You also, on this one, I've already kind of cleaned up the edge. And I see I've got a little bit of the seam there, so I'm going to have to remember to go in there with a sanding disc and clean that up. But so far, so good. I haven't lost a sphere yet. Alright, those look pretty good. So now I've just got to sand that one edge, and we are good to go. And I thank you for coming today. Join me for the next video. This is Nancy L.T. Hamilton saying bye-bye. Ciao.